Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Pregame Network podcast. This is episode, what, 92?
91 to
91.
be,
I
yeah,
was,
91.
you sure?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
I'm
it's
gonna
91.
double check right now. That'd be really
Okay,
awkward
double
if I
check.
forgot that. 91. That's episode
There
91.
we go. See, I was on the
Okay.
ball.
Hooray.
Yay.
Your gracious host, Dan, joined by my bestest pal, Anthony. And we're going to be talking about video games. And I know this is going to be a good episode because, well, I won't spoil it. We'll talk about it naturally. Yeah.
Yeah.
As usual, we will begin with what we've been playing for the week, and then get into other stuff and things. So I'm gonna give you the mic first because I have what to say this week, as far as what I've been playing.
Yeah, that's fine. So, I mean, my rotation's been pretty much the same. The only thing of note is that Marvel Rivals is taking up a little bit more time than usual. Other than that, it's fighting games and gacha games, and a little bit of my time goes to each of those. You know, a little less of the gacha games, a little less of the fighting games. Yeah, that sounds about accurate. And so it's pretty much the same, just with Marvel Rivals being a bit more, taking up a bit more of the time, just because it's a good communal game. Continuing my trend of attempting to play, more new games. There's been some smaller things I've been trying. There's been one game that has taken up a great deal of time. Shot in the dark. I will give you one guess. It's just completely out of the blue. Just any game that's ever existed.
Random game.
I'll give you one hint. One of my best friends ever made this video game.
Made the game?
Made the game.
Well, it wasn't me.
Or was credited as making the game, I should say.
I have no fucking idea.
Daniel, I've been playing Death Stranding all week.
Oh, you meant that sarcastically. Holy shit. Why?
Yes.
Explain yourself.
It recently got added to Game Pass, and I'm just like, okay, so a little bit about me. In between waiting for Harrison or Luke or you or whoever to show up or be free, and in between writing scripts and editing videos, I occasionally stream to some other friends that I have, right? And then I send out little feelers to see what kind of games, just to see if any of them click, and it's just a good time. It's just shooting the shit. The same thing I do with you guys whenever you guys are free. I like to do on the side too when I'm not busy, which is rare, but whatever. So Death Stranding hit Game Pass. I didn't know that was happening, so I'm just like, oh yeah, sure, I'll give this a shot. My experiences with Death Stranding in the past have been kind of spotty, like enough for me to get a feel for the game, understand what it's about, and judge it, but not enough to fully sit down, take in everything it had to offer, and play through it in one sitting. So that's what I've been doing, and I'm pretty close to the end at this point. Okay. My opinion on it hasn't really changed all that much. It's still package delivery simulator. Whether you see that as derogatory or not is completely dependent on the person.
But is that actually accurate? Because I know next to nothing about Death Stranding other than the fact that you walk around.
So Death Stranding, if I had to summarize it for you as somebody who's never played it, do you remember Metal Gear Solid 5?
I know of it.
You saw me play it?
What's the subtitle?
Phantom Pain.
Yes, I know it.
Okay. Yeah, so it's actually, one of the things that struck me going back to it is, like, obviously it's a different engine, but the game play, like how everything handles, moves, the camera shakes, all that kind of stuff, it's like they basically remade the same scenario that the Phantom Pain was in, which I guess makes sense because at the time, I think it was like 3 or 4 years removed from Kojima leaving Konami, and that was like the latest game and the last game he worked on there. So it's like that. Only, your main thing is delivering packages. So there's a whole system involved with the weight, how you're carrying things. You can attach things to your arms and legs. You can get exoskeletons that make you run faster, carry more shit. You can get gloves so your grip is stronger. There's little, hidden things in the background. It's like, oh, at a certain point, people just start giving you shit like hats and sunglasses, and like, oh, hidden values. If you have the hat on, your stamina's a little bit better, shit like that. You're micromanaging a lot going on in the hood. Me, I'm a loser. So what I do is I built
You're
up.
not a loser.
And no, but here's the thing. I'm like, I guess not, loser's not the best thing, but party pooper is, because I'm sitting there just going, when do I get a fucking vehicle, right? And lo and behold, I got a truck, so I've just been trucking things. So
I honestly thought you were gonna say, surprise, you don't. That's part of the fun.
No. So the game opens with him on a bike and he loses it early. You can get a bike, you can get a thing, you can get a truck, and I think
like a motorcycle.
Yeah, like they're trikes technically.
It's very on brand for Norman Reedus.
They're basically, yeah. It's actually funny. Like when you occasionally, there was more advertising in the game early on, but a lot of those things lapsed. Like you could literally like drink monsters to boost your stamina for the day and shit like that. But like at a certain point, like an ad for Norman Reedus's ride shows up, and just like, oh, we're just on brand with that one or whatever. But anyway, so there's different vehicles you can get, but the whole thing is it is delivering packages, like hiking, driving all over the place. One of the main mechanics is working with other people in a social like network environment to rebuild roads, so it's easier to make deliveries. And so that's pretty much what I've been doing. And my like I said, my opinion hasn't really changed all that much on it. The one thing I will say revisiting it is I actually find the combat more satisfying than Metal Gear Solid's combat, because in Metal Gear Solid it's something that you just know of if you play a stealth game in anything in the stealth genre, where you are penalized for lethal kills, right? That's almost every game has that trope where it's like they judge you if you go for lethal kills. Like everything's got to be pacifist. You got to knock them out, or you got to use tranquilizer darts. That's something that Metal Gear Solid had, but obviously a lot of other games do that too, right? And the thing about Death Stranding is one of the lore components is if somebody dies and you don't dispose of the body properly, like the body like taints the land, and the creatures that cause the whole event of the game, the Death Stranding, they show up. Sometimes you do what's called a void out. Your body explodes and it takes out chunks of the terrain and shit like that. So it's a very big deal. And the reason I bring this up is basically all of his arsenal, the main character Sam, his arsenal is built around non-lethal. So it's like you don't have to worry about just, wimpy, riot weapons. Like you have assault rifles and, shotguns that are like meant to like effectively knock someone out. You have Ebola guns. You can wrangle people. You can your hand-to-hand combat is better than in Metal Gear Solid. It's the combat in a game that's really not about combat and discourages combat is more satisfying than the combat in the last stealth game that he made, because of the nature of this. Like I'm not getting judged for it. I can just
go in there. That's a very strange
strange
juxtaposition.
I know, it's so weird to me, because like I've complimented Metal Gear Solid 5 quite a bit, because I do think it is a phenomenal handling game, just trapped in a world and environment that doesn't really support what you can do with it. So it's almost kind of refreshing in a way. I won't say I love Death Stranding, because the story is very obnoxious, the characters are obnoxious. Kojima needs a better handler, and now that he is complete, that was the first game he made free of a handler, and it is just full of all the shit I don't like about Kojima. But overall the game is solid. I'm annoyed by a lot of small things in the game, but you can't really say it's bad. And even I'll jokingly call it. Wait, go ahead.
I'm genuinely surprised by this updated reflection of this game.
Yeah, like I'm not in love with it. My opinion is pretty much the same, and there are a lot of annoyances in the game that I don't like. But it's a technologically sound game. I frequently call it a walking simulator. A lot of people do, and that is a bit of an exaggeration, it's a little bit of an exaggeration, but it is still true in a lot of ways, so a lot of my gripes with the game come from how the advertising was handled, how it's talked about. I'm not being a contrarian. People love that game. I'm not going to say like, oh, it's bad because people love it, but I do have a great disdain for like some of the things involved. Like the last thing I'll really say, I don't want to sit here and rant about Kojima and all that shit, but like I remember when the game's coming out, he's like, I've invented a new game. It is the Strand game. It's a Strand game because everybody's connected. And in this reflection period of going back and playing it, I'm just like, oh, so it's just like it's basically just you have community working towards things. Like as you expand the world and the network and you go to different places, you get access. Like when you essentially enter an area for the first time and you connect that area, like in the lore of connecting all these different bases together in the world, once you do that, you have access to the community. Like, you can see other players' buildings, and it's that's neat. Don't get me wrong. It's one of the fun things because everybody works together. They leave resources out. They leave facilities and buildings out there, so that I'll stumble upon somebody's safe house so I can rest up, fix all my shit, maybe get some materials so I can put it towards the road, and that's nice. That's one of the nice things about the game. But it's not new. He didn't invent that. It's not. You didn't find a new genre, Kojima, but you use this one rather effectively. That's one of the best parts. I love. There's a novelty of stumbling across somebody left this here for you, or donated this, or this area is tough, or it's really out of the way, but somebody's been here before and they built a little shelter for you, The downside of that is obviously there's a lot of wear and tear involved. I spent, because my buddy really enjoys the fact that you can build the roads, I trafficked shit up and down the fucking the whole world, and I built I stole resources, I collected resources, I loaded them all into my fucking truck, and I basically, whatever shard or whatever server I'm technically on, however it works behind the scenes, it's not really entirely clear, I built a road across a third of the map, just hauling these materials and all that stuff. And it's eventually those will degrade unless they're repaired by another player, but it's just it's give and take with this kind of game. But my main point is, it's not as bad as some people say. It's definitely not as good as other people say. I'm not in love with the game. It's neat for what it is. It does nothing spectacularly new, but it was nice to play a game like one of the best third-person shooters I've given credit for, with Metal Gear Solid 5, in an environment where the game's not actively working against me. So that's my long-winded kind of scattershot into the one new game I've been playing. That's what I have to say about it.
Okay, fair enough.
Take it away, pal.
So I've been kind of all over the place again. I'm kind of in that period where I don't really have a game to truly sink my teeth into right now, so I've kind of been back and forth between a few things. I dipped a toe back into Deep Rock Galactic, just solo. It's always just a good time. Yeah. I've been playing a little bit more of Arkham City, but I haven't really progressed that much more beyond where I was at last week. I was actually playing it yesterday, and I was at the part of the game where you're trying to take Mr. Freeze's equipment away from Penguin, and you know how you have to walk on that frozen over, I'm just gonna call it a lake in the center of the museum or whatever the building is.
Yes.
I kept on the Batman model kept on clipping on the platform that you have to get on. I kept on falling into the water and eaten by the shark over and over and over again. Yeah. So I just was I just put it down. I haven't gone back to it since. And I mean, I had a couple distractions while I was playing it, so it's not really the game's fault. I just kind of got fed up with the fact that it kept on happening. I kept on having to sit through the respawn screen of the Penguin walking up to you and saying, "Oh, you can cut the mask off of his face. No need to be gentle." And you have to click on retry. I'm okay, I'm just gonna take a break. So it's been a little bit of that. Luke and I played Street Fighter yesterday, while you and Harrison with the fucking peanut gallery cheering us on, or
it was so
making
nice
suggestions.
I've been waiting for that so long. God, I really see the
making
potential
a fool
there.
out of me with everyone except for Akuma.
Nah, it's listen, the two of you, if you guys had more consistent schedules with overlap that kind of thing, you guys would very quickly go from where you're at to above average. I would say you guys have the potential, but it's there's a lot of, I don't want to say work. Harrison was quick to throw a lot of terms at you, and I'm quick to say he
kept on saying EX, and I had no fucking idea what he was talking about. I didn't have the heart to tell him.
Yeah, no, it's the whole point is when you're in the moment explaining something to someone or saying, "Oh, it just takes a little bit," it seems daunting when it really is just a matter of playing the game more often. It's really just that simple.
I was really getting a hang for Cammy towards the end of our play session, between the different movesets and everything and comboing things together, and then you convinced me to change characters, and I basically went backwards. I chose Chun-Li, and I had no fucking idea what I was doing.
Yeah, well, I probably should have added the caveat of you should try someone else, but not that character. Well, there are some characters that you shouldn't try right off the bat.
So it's Street Fighter a little bit. I went really hard into Dark Tide yesterday for some inexplicable reason. Every now and again, I'll play that game, and like it just grabs me again, and I go down a rabbit hole of just nothing in particular, just enjoying the game. And I played it for like 4 or 5 hours yesterday straight. I was leveling up the Hive Scum class, and for anyone that doesn't know, that's the newest class that was added to the game, and I have yet to max it out, so I was kind of working on that. But I just like to play Darktide because it is one of the best feeling first-person shooters on the market right now, and I would die on that hill. I'm not saying it's the best, but it is one of the best, and I don't think it gets the credit that it deserves. But that's neither here nor there right now. Played a little bit of Helldivers, but that was just for some time killing. I went back into Arc Raiders today, just because I haven't played it in like 2 weeks, and I just kind of felt like jumping back in for whatever reason. So I did that, and then the big one that I played, I put about 10 hours into Highguard, and this is where we're going to transition into the I guess the news or the story or whatever you want to call it, because I do have a lot to say about this game right now, and I don't think I would have as much to say if it wasn't for the fact that it was made by who is developing it.
No. They removed that from the description, so there's no reason to
that
talk
means
about
it was scrubbed from my memory, so I'm not allowed to know that anymore. Silly me. Well, I will be the keeper of the scrolls for this game and for this development. Dude, I have such an attachment to the core Modern Warfare trilogy and Titanfall 1 and 2 that like I think my expectations were a little bit too high, even though I knew that I couldn't get them too high. I couldn't help it. I can't help it. This group of developers are responsible for some of my favorite games ever, and like that's not even like 1 or 2. No, it's like a solid 4 games that are just hands down in my top 10 overall. So when they make a game and they put in their one and only trailer from the studio, from the developers that brought you Apex Legends and Titanfall, and it's a new first-person shooter, my ears fucking perk up and I am paying attention. So I have about how many hours? I have about 7 hours in Highguard right now, and there are some issues. So we played together for one session. I've been kind of going back and forth by myself because
what I will say just real quick, just to have the level playing field. You say you played it for about 7 hours, and then you said that you played it for one session. I should note that one session was about 3 hours.
Yeah, no.
We were at it for a while.
Yeah, it was, and then I put in a bunch more after that, just on my own. I wanted to get a better feeling of how the game is as a complete package, and so. In between now, in between our one play session together, which was last week, and now, one of the biggest complaints for the game from the community that's been playing it is 3v3 feels really weird, and it should be at least 4v4. So what did the devs do? The studio name is Wildlight.
5v5.
What's it? Wildlight put in an experimental 5v5 mode. Now apparently they're supposed to be taking it out, which I think is a huge mistake. And it's for a couple of reasons. One, variety, and number two, at least for me, the fact that they added 5v5 so quickly, it shows that they are listening to feedback and really taking it to heart, and are really trying to adapt to what who is going to play this game.
Yeah, and that is. And to what you said about the variety aspect, this is definitely a game where you want to add and add content.
Yeah, I mean it is absolutely not perfect. I'm going off the top here. I very rarely prepare like bullet points for stuff like this, because I like to get my gut reaction out at the first time. You're also a very good person to bounce things off of because you keep me grounded. But this game is far from perfect. What I've been telling anybody who wanted to know about it so far, and there's been a few people, is that there's something fun in here. Like there's something in there somewhere that they can further develop on and make into its own thing. It is absolutely not there yet. It is definitely not in a 1.0 state, not by a long shot, in my opinion. I think the biggest thing for me right now is the optimization. I'm playing all medium settings across the board at 1080p, and I still struggle to hit 60 frames, especially during base raids. So that's a problem, in my opinion. That is a problem, especially where like I can turn around and play Arc Raiders, where it's much more photorealistic. There is a similar amount going on screen depending on the encounter that you're in, and it is rock solid. So they need to fix that by far, especially if they want to be in the competitive FPS space. That needs to get fixed as soon as they possibly can. But you know, with me saying that is my number one thing, I'm not going to mention it again because I think it's just a staple at this point for Highguard. So optimization, number one for me right now. They have to fix that in some way. Number two, I think that they are taking a little bit too much from too many different types of games and mashing it all together, and it is not exactly coming out the way that I think the devs intended it to be. So for anybody who doesn't know, it is part Counter-Strike, part Apex Legends, part Rainbow Six Siege, and part there was one other one that it's slipping my mind right now. It'll come to me, but it's a bunch of different aspects of those games that are all like mashed into one. So from Counter-Strike, there's a shop that you can buy. Fortnite, that was the other one. From Counter-Strike, there's a vendor that you can go to and spend your currency on to get better gear. From Siege, you can reinforce the walls because it's like an attack and defend type of thing where they have to plant the bomb and you have to defend against it. From Fortnite, it's the looting aspect, or Warzone. I mean, the battle royale. And then from what was the other one I said? Apex. It was just the overall like presentation of the characters and gameplay of it. And I don't have a problem with that because I think it does feel pretty good to play. There is something that feels a little off about aiming that I can't quite put my finger on, but it's there, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fact that my performance plummets when I'm getting into...
I think that part's going to be a little harder for you to accurately judge. Not saying that like what you experience doesn't isn't reflective of the game at some degree. I just mean you're not playing in an optimal setting yet.
Yeah, and I've only played on my desktop one time. The majority of PlayStations that I've done have been on my laptop, and I'm playing on like a fraction of the power that I have on my desktop, so maybe that has something to do with it. It's a very weird mashup of all those different games and genres.
I mean, I'll be completely honest because I agree with you where there's a lot to take on. I think when we were playing it, I said something like I almost didn't want to make those comparisons. It's just the only way to really describe the different functions. But where I think the two of us might disagree a little, you look at it and you say it's confused a little bit almost. The way I described it, I think I said something like it takes a lot from all these different games, but it's it's not bogged down by those things. It's right when you notice it, at least for me, when you notice it,
it's not kind of like down. Go ahead, finish your thought. I'm sorry.
No. I was gonna say is right as you notice it, and you're about to hit the groan or the roll your eyes moment. I stop personally and go oh wait a minute, the moment's passed. It's not fully into any of the small things it takes. In my opinion, it's fine to disagree.
I think that this game ultimately needs to really pick a lane. And for me, I have this really bad habit of not keeping an eye on what tier my armor is. So it goes, it goes white, blue, purple, and orange. Those are the rarity tiers. Obviously, they're all sequential. So the higher you go, the more armor rating that you have. But it's on you to remember and check what you have. If you have enough, armor plates, so to speak, if you're taking a Warzone example, and make sure that you're topped off so that when you get into a firefight and you inevitably get your shield broken, you can replenish it, which happens automatically. It doesn't really give you a great indication of where you're at and what you have left to go. And I find myself chronically getting into situations where I'll use up all of my armor and I'm just on my my white armor in like the late stages of the game, and I just get killed 10 times as fast because I don't have the defenses that I should have at that point. There's a lot of fine tuning that this game needs to do to get into like, some kind of a foothold.
It's interesting to me just on the armor tidbit because like there's a part I think in the very first engagement we got into when we were playing Highguard, I take damage and I hear like a cracking noise or there's some kind of visual thing on me, and my first instinct was to dive out of cover and immediately start dicking around with my inventory. Yeah. And while you can look at your inventory at any point, there's really no reason to for like
there's nothing 90%
to do.
Of the game. It just tells you what you have.
And here's the thing: I when I figured that, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I actually, I understand like your I do think there should be a little bit more than like getting having what's his name the guy who sells you shit. Like if you have no armor or if your armor level's down, he'll say something to you on the respawn screen. I think that's the only real indicator that your armor went down. But I personally love the fact that I could just grab a bunch of armor and have it like sit there and passively like load into me, and like every now and again I would look to see how much it is. And I do think that there needs to be a better indicator, but like I guess I'm looking at it at a glass half full kind of thing.
I mean, just, like, I'm not trying to look at it as a glass half empty.
No, I'm not saying you're negative. I'm just
baked.
I guess, but it's like
the idea isn't really there. It's very weird.
I don't know. It's because like the alternative to that is like they remove armor altogether, which I don't think would be right for the game. I think the armor aspect is a part of that gear up. Like you would essentially be chipping away at one of the few like pillars that this game has.
I struggle to find the difference between rolling the dice on the loot chest out in the map or going out of your way to farm as many crystals as you can so you can buy said item from the store. Usually when you're in the later stages of a match, all the gear is an orange rarity anyway. So you can go around to all the chests and loot what you need. And yeah, like you're always going to have some RNG as far as like what weapons that you get, but it doesn't really change the outcome of the fact that you're going to get better armor and better weapons. So it's weird. I think the game needs to pick a lane and lean into something that it's good at. Now, as far as what it's good at, those animations, man, clean as fuck. But this studio and the devs behind it have always been good at making very satisfying, like crunchy, visceral animations and just making you feel cool while you're playing the game. My favorite weapon so far is the Paladin. It's basically an AA-12, and just everything from the way that it shoots to reloads to sounds and functions, like I really like using it. But there's a more than likely chance that I'll be more than halfway into a match and it's still the white rarity, and then I'm running around finding everything that's like purple or orange. So it's I don't know. Like I said, I think the game needs a lot of fine tuning. It is not in a 1.0 release state. It should have launched in early access, and I think that the Game Awards trailer was a double-edged sword. I don't think anybody would have cared if it was in the middle of the show, but I think that for the sole reason they put this trailer in the last spot of the show is the vast majority of the reason why it's gotten so much hate, which is another thing that we need to address. It does not deserve the sheer levels of hate that it's getting. It is not a Concord 2 by a long shot. And yeah, it's not perfect and it needs a lot of work, but I feel like there's a crowd out there that is hating for it for the sake of doing so. And I know that's not like a crazy statement to make, but it's still happening. So I don't know. I think I'm going to be honest. I think I'm a little bit biased because I really love what these devs have made in the past so much that I know that they can make this into something a lot better, and I want them to have that opportunity to do so. But for right now, it's not it. The game launched at a 97,000 concurrent, a peak player count on Steam, and as of now, let's see what it's at. When I checked, it was at like 10 or something. Right now, there's just about 10,000 players on the dot, and it also went from overwhelmingly negative to mostly negative to now mixed, which really fast turnaround for something like that, in my opinion. So I have a lot of feelings when it comes to this game, dude. And
Yeah, I mean, the reception and the needle moving on that is I agree with you to a certain extent. For the most part, I would say for half of what you said, and then a little bit less to the other part where it comes to feedback and the like. Right? I do think that the game has issues worth critiquing. I do think that the way it was marketed and Jeff's kind of like hand on the scale was very noticeable as far as the feedback is
well,
concerned.
the studio head went on record and said that they were planning on doing a complete and total shadow drop in the same vein that
Yeah,
Apex Legends was released, which
would
would
have
have
been much
been, I mean,
better.
it would have been better, but it wouldn't have gotten the fucking Eye of Sauron on it to the point where it
Yeah,
wouldn't have had the exposure. And when Jeff offered the last spot totally free, he was like, "Who wouldn't take that deal? Like, well, why wouldn't we do that?"
yeah, it's tough, and the whole that aspect of it is, while I'm not blaming him for taking the free spot, the fact that he doesn't quite understand the ire he's getting and why kind of leads me to believe that like a lot of the we would still be having these issues with the game. All the things that you listed would still be problems. The free to play elements, the half baked nature of certain parts of it. We disagree on some of the finer details, and that's neither here nor there because like at the end of the day, the game is still what it is, and it leads to the other point that I'm seeing where it's just like there is a lot of hyper positivity out there around the discussion of the game, where like you kind of have it's the same song and dance that we see around every release that like the industry decides it likes. There's conversations about like, oh, it's not that bad. Like I think it was either The Gamer or PC Gamer. Both of them have positive takes about Highguard, like glowing, like not like me and you talking like, oh, it does some things good, it does some things bad, but like glowing, talk about it the same way they did it for Concord, the same way they did it for Assassin's Creed Shadows. Like every game
Called
that
a
has
pattern.
yeah, it's the same shit, and like that's kind of where the turnaround is because you have a lot of people coming out and kind of saying what you're saying, but in a much more obnoxious way.
Yeah.
Like they're stepping up and going like, oh, when did it become cool to hate things, right?
Since forever.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing. This actually leads into something else because I saw a tweet that wasn't directly about it as far as I can tell, but it did seem a little suspect from good old Cliff Blazinski.
Oh boy. Is he butthurt about lawbreakers? Is that where this is going?
No. I'm pretty sure it's about Highguard, but he didn't specify exactly what it's about.
Okay.
But right around the time that Highguard was getting shellacked, he said the following: "When did it become trendy to hate on a new game? Been seeing it more and more in recent years. It's exhausting." And I'm just like, so he's definitely talking about Highguard, right? He has to be talking about Highguard. But beneath his post is shit like it just became like a whining fest where people are going, oh, it's just cool to hate on new things now. Oh, it's just there's all this noise. It's nothing. It's not reflective of the game or anything. And one of my favorites, all the complaints are just from grifters. Grifters is such a fucking overused term, man. But that's in there and tucked away in there. Someone did actually ask him if he was talking about Highguard, and followed up by telling him to play it, and his response was, "I'll watch my wife play it. I don't play much these days," which is as sad and telling as it is humorous,
That warranted a big sigh from me.
Yeah, that's sad, and it's like I have nothing. No, listen, you should always try to play the games you plan on talking about. You can always talk about the things that you see. If you're in a post-release situation, wondering why people are talking poorly about a game or complaining that people are hating on it, you should probably just have played the game like we did. The games I'm personally most vocal about are games I just played. A game I just played, a game I play a lot of, or games I plan on playing that aren't out yet. That's where I'm the most vocal. In cases where I talk about things that I haven't played or don't plan to play, it's normally in the frame of why I was put off enough not to play it, or whatever controversy happens to be surrounding it at the moment, and it's basically the inverse of the problem he claims to be pointing in, which I personally think is more of a problem, where everything just gets a pass by default. You can't be mean about these things. Developers, they exist. It's nonsense, basically.
Yeah,
It's like,
the planet's really aligned in an unfortunate way for Highguard.
yeah,
And again, I'm not saying the game is perfect or that it's like even great, because it absolutely needs a lot of work, but it got fucked from both sides.
And here's the thing, that's perfect. That's the perfectly reasonable takeaway. Me and you played it. It has a lot of good things that could be done with it. It has a lot of bad things, Plays well, handles well, but at the same time it has, issues on the PC where it doesn't run that well. I don't personally the worst part about that to me was sitting at the menu, because I saw all the shit that just streamed free to play, and I'm just like, it is free to play, but it's like, it's so that's where like the half-baked element comes in for me, because I'm looking at like a quarter of a game unless I pay up or wait, so it's like, ugh.
Yeah, so that's like part of my argument here, is that it's clearly not finished. And on that not finished subject, did you happen to look at any of the settings for Highguard?
I looked around a bit. I think there's a part where I dick around at near the beginning, and my most disappointing thing is like there was no field of view, like
there was nothing. It was total bare bones, to the point where like I've never seen a game come out that had that amount of choices, or like I'm saying, lack thereof.
I put off talking about that just because I'm like, I'm on console. A lot of times console games don't necessarily have the same robust settings, but apparently that's just the case.
It's been getting,
in general.
It's been getting more and more robust in the recent years for
I completely agree.
Console.
It has been getting better. That's why I was surprised there was no field of view toggle or any setting on there. I was like, that was notable to me. Like, is that like a step backward? Is not done,
Yeah. So the whole settings thing, it baffled me. I went into it, I was like, this is it? Like, I was in disbelief. I couldn't like fathom the fact that they didn't let you change. Oh, I was able to change my field of view at first, but like DLSS was on or off. You couldn't choose the model of DLSS or like the preset, which was like, I've never seen that in a game. You couldn't change mouse smoothing or bloom, or there was something toggle to aim, which I used, that wasn't there. There was a lot of shit that just wasn't there, and on top of the fact that it was so poorly, or is completely baffling to me, which is, again, I know I'm kind of going in circles, but kind of spells out the fact that the game just wasn't ready. And they're a completely independent and self-funded studio, so I don't know why they couldn't just wait. The whole thing is really weird, man. It's really weird. And you were saying it does some things well, it does a lot of other things not so well. I cannot stress enough how there is absolutely like nuggets of fun in there, like sprinkled throughout the match, that they need to figure out how to link them all together. Like, for example, when you first start a match, that gives you like a solid minute to reinforce the structures and get ready and everything. But once you reinforce whatever structures that you want, that's it. There's nothing else to do. And you're just kind of waiting there for 30 seconds for the match to really begin. They need to tweak the timing of that. The gear up phase has you riding around this wide open, mostly empty map. I've heard some people saying that, like, oh, they should add NPC mobs around the map, so it gives you something to do. Maybe replace the crystals with that instead. I don't know if that's really the right answer, because then you're kind of leaning more into like looter shooter, like true looter shooter territory.
That's something I wouldn't necessarily lean into.
They're clearly trying to be a competitive FPS game. The game mode itself, like I said, it needs tweaking. They need to add more game modes. They need to add more everything. And they did say they were going to add more game modes, so that should be interesting. I could see a spin-off game mode of Highguard being a co-op PvE tower defense type of game. Yeah. Like, take the PvP out of it. PvE, yeah. And you already have the heroes in there, which is another thing. We haven't even touched on the heroes. I think largely they are uninteresting, but at least they don't look like shit. I think that's the best way I could put it. So Yeah, man, like Highguard is there's so much to say about it, and I hope that they stick with the game because I think it can be a much better product than what it is right now.
Hmm.
Um, they just need to keep on working on it, and they just need time. But this is not a very forgiving industry when it comes to those two things.
I mean,
So,
to add to that, it's not a very forgiving industry. There's a lot of high guard. Like I'm gonna say, like, anyone who is chanting about it being Concord 2 or hyped it up as Concord 2,
yeah, way
insane.
off base.
But at the same time, I'm not gonna like disregard the fact that all of the little things that we talked about that go into Highguard or what it represents or what it feels like when you play it. Like, I'm not going to pretend like there's a huge market for that. People have a lot of fatigue around those different things that go into into Highguard, and more importantly, what it looks like on the surface. Once again, I say you should try these things, but underneath you're still just gonna see elements of it. And so you have the situation where it's like, okay, you shouldn't deal with the extremes of either end, where it's just like, give this game a pass, or this is the worst thing ever, because they're both wrong, they're both stupid. But at the same time, at the end of the day, you have this like middle of the road, free to play game that isn't really exceptional, And I think based on a lot of the things I've heard about the developers or the people defending the developers, I worry that after this initial push of content that they talked about during the showcase, right, where it's like a lot of the stuff that was developed in tandem with the game proper is going to come out, I worry that there will be some kind of complacency there. You talked about them listening to feedback and doing some kind of reactive stuff. At the same time, I heard that there are some really nasty bugs that we didn't personally encounter that the development team is aware of, but they're intentionally not pushing out an update for that bug because it's fixed in like the episode 2 content, so the people are just gonna have to wait for that. And like, there are certain things they seem to be willing to try, and other ways that they're very complacent, and you can't be complacent at all with the state that Highguard currently is in. So I don't know. I'm not gonna hate on it, but like, I'm not hopeful, I guess.
Yeah, I'm really trying to stay positive because I think one of their only saving graces, at least at this stage of the game, is that they're totally self-funded and they're self-publishing. So that is probably their biggest boon right now. But I'm boon. That's probably their biggest boon right now, because I think that if any other publishing studio had their their claws in Wildlight, they probably would be thinking about pulling the plug very soon. So, I mean, we have no idea what the financials are like or what the player counts are on consoles, but the only thing we have to go off is Steam charts and the monetization model in the game now, which is kind of aggressive. So, I don't even want to talk about that because, what hasn't already been said about aggressive monetization structures.
Of course.
So, and we're already 40 minutes in, so like that would just be a waste of time. So yeah, Highguard, it needs a lot of work. It does some things well. It does a lot of other things not well, and it just needs work. They need to fix the optimization. Like, that is such a killjoy for me.
Yeah.
I don't really know what else to say without talking in circles again. So
I mean, we've pretty much gone over all the different things. Anything else can be said. If you want, go check out the Pregame Network First Play Highguard. You'll get our first impressions on that. But I mean, we've said everything that needs to be said already about like where they go from here, what it really feels like right now, and the reactions around it. There's not much else to really say about it.
Yeah. So that is our impressions of Highguard and where we hope it goes in the future. Moving on from there, I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it. We're gonna talk about Resident Evil 9. It has to happen.
Finally. Yes. Good Lord.
Go ahead, go for it, because I have some stuff to say about Requiem as well.
I mean, I'm gonna let you. I'll tell you what I feel about it, and then I'll let you say whatever you need to, because it's obviously you have a lot of love for like some of the games in the middle, like Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5, even Resident Evil 6 to a certain degree. I would say you're very much.
I enjoyed 6.
Yeah, no, but I would say I personally, based on me knowing you, as far as
Right.
watching you play these games and playing them with you, it strikes me as that you liked 4 and 5 more than you did 6. Is
Oh
that
yeah.
accurate to say? Okay,
Yeah.
that's how it is for most people, and comparing those 3 games, that's how it is for me too. So as the Resident Evil veteran, so to speak, playing all the mainline games, all the side games, all the different shit. One day I will get Umbrella Corps, a proper playthrough as soon as I get it. Some people to rope in there. I'm one of the few schmucks that tries to, say Operation Raccoon City had redeeming qualities, and that would get me crucified. So finally seeing like a proper like showcase of Resident Evil, and I say proper as much as I can because like I think a third of it went to like showcasing events, doing crossovers with Porsche, and selling watches, which I'm sure you got a kick out of.
I hate that shit. I really do.
But at least they were marketing to you. I know you love a good watch. What was I gonna say? So it was nice to see. Pretty much all the things I said previously, where I'm like, I'm concerned about the jumping between 2 protagonists. I'm not sure if they learn much. My concerns are still present, just because that kind of pacing you're just not going to be able to feel out until you sit down and you play the game. Now, that being said, I do have some things to say about the game now that we've seen a lot of Leon gameplay. We've seen, some of the comparisons between Leon and Grace's gameplay. First, I've got to say, I was surprised at how much Under the Hood appeared to be like Resident Evil 6 adjacent, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Like, I saw like little bits and pieces of Resident Evil 6 Under the Hood, like where to the point where I'm just like, I think a lot of this game, the things like, oh, you can't have Leon looking timid, Grace is better choice because she can be afraid, and you will be afraid because Grace is afraid. I think it's all just a cover for the fact that the devs really wanted to make a Leon action game, but Capcom is still afraid to dip too much into action after the reception to Resident Evil 6. So you see the way Leon handles, it's not quite Resident Evil 6 where it's like all the fluid action, the diving and whatnot, but it's got a little bit more kick than, Village's third-person mode and the remakes and the Resident Evil 4 remake, which is good because I wanted to see more of that branch off into a different direction, I think this is probably the bloodiest Resident Evil has been since the classic games.
That was going to be one of my points. Like, watching the Leon gameplay, holy
he
shit.
fucks people up.
It looks awesome.
Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah, he definitely fucks people up, man.
The fucking buckets of Hawaiian Punch blood spewing out of like a neck cap.
I actually had to like do a double take. I'm just like, I had to get like a chart out and like compare. It's like, okay, so the older games are kind of bloody, but it was lower textured. So if I compare the lower textured blood to this, like, is it really bloodier than ever? And I gotta say, I mean, I think if you compare 4 to Village to Resident Evil Requiem, I think it is probably the bloodiest the game has been, short of like some of the first person scenes in 7, because like there's some grisly scenes in 7.
By the way, which one do you think
matters.
which game do you think I would enjoy more? Do you think I would like Resident Evil 7 or was it Biohazard? Village is after 7, right?
Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, also known as Biohazard Biohazard 7 Resident Evil. It was a clever thing they did there because Biohazard's the Japanese name.
Yeah,
and then Village. So I think I said this once to you. I think I said you would definitely enjoy Village more, but you need to play 7 first.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you need to play. Yeah, they're sequential games. You need to play to understand.
It is, I mean, all of the games have a story that ties together, and it's better to play them all in order, but 7 to 8 is the direct sequel. So you would need to play that. But Resident Evil 7 is to Resident Evil 1 that Resident Evil Village is to Resident Evil 4. So you would need to play both. But
and I do own the games on Steam. I just haven't played them because I'm a giant pansy.
I think we also said at a certain point, I'm like, I'd be willing to like play it with you if you ever had the time. If you ever put the time away, we could play it together just so that you can get through it. Kind of like the olden days where you would play Resident Evil 4 and I would be there with you, like way back when. But
times.
Resident Evil Requiem. All I can really say so far is that it does look very good. None of my concerns were alleviated, but my concerns about the game were very hyper focused, because I'm talking about, like, how is the pacing going to hold up? You know, I'm still not keen on the fact that Resident Evil loves to do time jumps and they leave a lot of threads behind, but that's like a series wide issue. I can't really blame Requiem for that. I'm not, like, hearing the developers talk about the game and the focuses from gameplay and story did little to alleviate my concerns, but a lot of my concerns are based on, like, you like to poke fun at the fact that I can be a hard ass with a lot of things. Resident Evil Requiem,
you are a hard ass with a lot of things. You don't like to be. You're just that way.
Yeah, Resident Evil Requiem looks like a fine game. A lot of the issues I have are really just hyper specific. The biggest one, which will affect everybody if they don't get it wrong, if they don't get it right, is the pacing. The only other thing I really have to say about the showcase is that I am pissed that I saw what appeared to be a Leon game. They said, like, they started as, we wanted to do, you know, I have my takeaway, but they flat out said, we were going to do a game with just Leon, but then it's like, we need Leon to be, we can't do, you know, spooky with Leon anymore because he's just too much of a badass, right? And I'm just like, fuck, because back when Resident Evil 4 was in development, there was an interesting build. There were a couple builds where it was, like, supposed to be a dark and gritty game with Leon, and it was like the proto version where it's just like it had the fixed camera angles, but when you aimed, it was a lot like Resident Evil 4. It was like this cool prototype thing, and a lot of the setting stuff seemed to carry over to this prototype Leon game they were working on. And it was like, fuck, I missed it again after all that waiting. But that's pretty much all I have to say. I know I rambled more about the series as a whole, but, like, I am curious to hear your thoughts on this.
So obviously you are a much bigger Resident Evil fan than I am, or ever will be. I do enjoy. I have enjoyed the Resident Evil games that I have played from start to finish. I mean, going down the list, it's pretty short. I played through all of Resident Evil 4, 5, 6. We also did a little bit of Operation Raccoon City, and I played a little bit of Revelations, I think. I never finished it. So in, like, from that sample size of games that I have played, and I played through, like, 60% of Resident Evil 2 Remake, couldn't finish it.
That 60% is pretty good, considering your more frightened tendencies.
Yeah, I do not like horror. I just don't. When it's paired with, like, really cool and satisfying action, that's one thing I could get past it. But when it's just, like, straight up, like, I'm gonna scare the ever loving fuck out of you, I don't like that. So yeah, I couldn't finish Resident Evil 2 Remake. So watching the gameplay showcase for Requiem, I do like the fact that they have two protagonists, and one is, like, hardcore survival horror, and the other is more Resident Evil 4 vein, where it's like action horror, no, survival action horror. How did you put it?
Survival horror, and there's survival horror and survival action.
Right, survival action. It is obviously more survival action. Now, I am not really one to pick up a game that looks like Grace's playthrough. It just, I mean, obviously I know that the developers are trying to make you feel completely powerless, and, like, you have to run or sneak around or whatever to get around the infected. I do really like the fact that the zombies now seem to retain elements of their personality from before they were infected. I think that's a really cool touch. The overall ambiance and atmosphere is just fucking chilling from the vertical slides that they showed for Grace. It looks fucking terrifying, man. But inversely, on the other side of the coin, Leon's stuff looks fucking awesome, and I would love to play an entire game of that. And I know. I'm the guy that, like the demographic that is responsible for, like, Resident Evil 6. Like, I get that. I'm aware. But goddamn, does that not look fun? Like the gore, like you said, and just the way that they made him manipulate his weapons and movements in the game during combat just looks fucking awesome. It looks like a more methodical John Wick, and it just looks cool. Like, I want to play a whole game of that, but I can't. So, like I said, I know you are more of the Resident Evil fan, but I think the game looks really good overall. I didn't notice any tidbits of Resident Evil 6 throughout the showcase, but you have a more acute eye to that than I do.
The most telling thing for me was some of his melee finishers. There's interactions with the environment, which is something they toyed around with in 6 specifically.
Right.
And
Okay.
there's also like Leon has obviously had a bunch of different melee attacks just throughout the years from all of his different appearances. The kick that he does is the one that was introduced in 6, and that stuck out to me. I'm just like, did they really just do that? Just like somebody liked that movie, and I like the consistency overall. You could do his roundhouse from 4, you could do his snap kick from 6. It's fine to take, I even though like I still consider Resident Evil 6 a very, very polarizing game for a lot of reasons. It's not an offensive, never reference this again game. Just learn from the mistakes there. And that's to make it completely clear, the mistakes that Resident Evil 6 did are not really present in Requiem. Like, Resident Evil 6 has a lot of deep problems that go beyond just making it a little more action-oriented. So anyone who compares the game to 6, especially with the split feature, because a lot of people are saying, hey, you sounded, the way you're describing this game is the exact same way you described Resident Evil 6, because, like, they basically said, like, oh, we're gonna have all these different campaigns, so if you're worried about there not being horror, just play Leon's campaign. And it was a very surface level change, even though there's more to say about that, but people were worried hearing the same things about Requiem, that it would just be like another bait and switch where it wouldn't really feel that way, right? And I don't really, that issue is not present in Requiem. And the only thing I'm really gonna say, this whole gimmick of, I mentioned it before, you brought it up again, where it's like Grace is scared, therefore you must be scared, and that's why they made the game with Grace and all this kind of stuff. All I have to really say about that is the kind of like the dirty little secret about Resident Evil games, which I love, is that the survival horror aspect of it really comes from the build up in the early parts of the game. By the end of the game, you're supposed to be more sure of yourself. You're supposed to have saved up a lot of stuff. Sometimes, new players, some players will get by and they'll just skirt by the skin of their teeth. But if you adapt to these Resident Evil games, all of them, even like the spin-offs, it's a pretty well-written rule that by the end, you are a powerhouse of some kind. You have overcome it. You have the resources and the know-how to really take on the challenges that these games provide. So this whole thing with Grace is like, I find it funny to me because like I would say like a couple months from now, or a couple months after the game comes out, right? We're going to have players like me or speedrunners or all those people. They're going to be like, oh, we know the ins and outs of the game. It's not that it's not going to be fun anymore if it's fun at launch, but it's like, all of that horror shit is going to go right out the fucking window for most players because, and in however many years time, when there's like a Resident Evil 10, people are going to remember like all the crazy shit and action stuff that you can do in Resident Evil Requiem, because sure, like her hands will shake a bit more on the playthrough and her aim's not going to be as strong, but all of that stuff is going to go right out the fucking window for anyone who actually plays these games. And the reputation of the franchise and the reputation of Requiem will be, it is another one of those games where, it's a survival horror, but you can build yourself up and do stuff, and people are going to make jokes about that just like every other Resident Evil. And that's my last bit of take on like the gameplay and balancing all that stuff. It just I wanted to say the people who were worried about it being another Resident Evil 6,
Yeah. Well, okay, we finally did it. We finally did our gameplay impressions of Resident Evil 9.
I do, however, have one last thing to say about it, because there's been a little bit of discussion around it, and this is about the series as a whole, and I'm going to try and not make it a rant, right?
Oh boy, please.
So this
you
small
had
little
one rant
aside
for
of
today
mine,
already, okay?
The small
you
little
got it out of your
aside from
system.
me is that a lot of people are obviously talking about Leon's design, right?
Okay.
Ever since he was revealed, and even beforehand, when it was teased, they were talking about how is Leon going to look, right? Because he's a mainstay character, but he's been in this game, he's been at the game for a long fucking time, right? He is like basically, the way I can compare it with the other protagonists, they're all protagonists, but like the two leading men are Chris and Leon. If Chris is the soldier, Leon is the agent. He's always been the sleeker one. In design, he's always had his slick secret agent going on stuff. He's DSO. He's not a frontline soldier. He's sent in for special missions, right? Now there's a little more going on with this character. He's always had a little bit of dorkiness in him, where he makes some jokes, and there's all this other little kind of stuff going on there. But so you take this sleeker guy who's been essentially locked in a war on terror, like a literal one, from his 20s to now nearing his 50s. He's 49 in this game.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
He does look older.
Yes, he does. Everyone was like, what's he going to look like? What's it going to look like? People were posting like AI images of his Resident Evil 2 render where he looks basically like fucking old Snake. And, you know, they even gave him a fucking eye patch. And basically, you know, this was a point of contention. And a couple of interviews have come out where they basically said, we went to all the women in the office and we made sure he had this hot uncle look going on for it.
Right.
And here's the fucking thing. I don't have a problem when you make characters look cool or hot or whatever, for whatever flavor you like, as long as the design is good and it's honest. That's all I care about. This is bothersome to me, Dan, because one, if you said this the other way around about any of the female characters, all those same articles and all those same interviews would be singing a very, very different tune.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Absolutely.
And guess what? I don't have to guess this, because number 2, they spent the last 3 remakes covering up Jill, Claire, Hunnigan, Ashley, all the female characters, and not in a quiet way, where the remakes come out and things kind of look different. No. They did this in a vocal, like, lambasting the past, like, oh, if we had to do it, we had to do it differently this time around, and you had all the same articles
mods,
talking.
Huh?
Yeah, and here's the thing, you shouldn't have to mod this shit in, right? But the same people who talk about how bad the old designs are or whatnot are writing articles praising the hot Uncle Leon look that they got going on there. And the fucking, like, it's crazy to me, because you've seen me go to bat for examples of censorship where it's like the games feel very lewd or etchy or downright pornographic. But these designs in the classic Resident Evil games, they're not like sexually charged. They're just like stylish, unique outfits, you know? And basically all I'm getting at is, like, you have all these people lusting over Leon and talking about how hot he is or whatever. Meanwhile, you can't have the reverse conversation, and that's how you go from, like, all of the female casts, all of the female leads going from, like, their own unique, stylish costumes to just about every single one of them wearing skinny jeans and a tank top, occasionally with a jacket over that too. And in the cases where they can't change it, they add just, like, they change, like, flowing cloths to, like, shorts, and they add, like, clothing underneath where things don't really make sense. Even characters that are off screen that you don't get a chance to see have their outfits changed. It's all nonsense. But no, for Leon, we can, you know, go about that, because, you know, it's
and that Ada one in particular looks fucking awful.
Yeah, there's this weird thing going on where it's just like, you know, in cases where they can't get away with changing things, they just add, like, essentially like a bodysuit underneath the outfit. It's like, okay, we'll leave the outfit mostly the same, but we're gonna make it slightly worse, and they're gonna be essentially wearing stuff underneath it anyway. So it's like, yeah, it's whatever. But it's like every single female character has that going on with them, but, like, with the male characters, which do whatever you want to make them appealing. I don't really care, as long as you don't ruin them. You know, that's just the last thing that stuck out to me about Requiem, is this conversation around it, you know?
Right. Yeah. Beyond that, it looks good to me.
Yeah. Beyond that, like, I don't have, like, here's the thing, you know, just to put a little pin on it, just because, you know, we've been talking about this for a while. Like, I don't have a problem with the way Grace looks. I think it's boring compared to everything else, but I'm not going to scream censored, because I don't have that kind of information if that's true or not. She just looks boring. You know, I'm not going to sit here and go, like, she should be borderline naked, because that's never what Resident Evil really was. So I don't really care. It's a new character. Do what you want. Aside from, you know, that other shit I talk about, but, you know.
Yeah, so Resident Evil 9 looks good, with the exception of what Anthony said, and like I am looking forward to watching him play it.
Yeah, very much looking forward to it. Like I said, it looks fine for what it is. My concerns were not alleviated, because, you know, it's something that you got to feel out as you play the game. So we'll see what happens.
All right, well, moving on. Let's see. Xbox's hardware sales are down by 32%, and Microsoft reports that its overall gaming revenue is in decline. No shit.
Yeah,
were they in the negative?
I think it's like it's like -5% or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, negative anything is bad.
Here's the thing: Microsoft, it's been an open secret that like their gaming division is always like just a drop in the bucket for them because
Yeah.
I say what you will about what's going on with other stuff going on, but they've always had the backbone of cloud computing, and they have a near monopoly on personal computing, and Microsoft Office is a staple. And regardless, because all of that shit is going through its own turbulence right now, but all I'm saying is that's just how it is with Xbox gaming. It was always like just a drop in the bucket for them, which is why they try to squeeze more and more blood from that stone, and they make all these asinine decisions and whatnot. But it's going to decline with the decisions they've been making. It's just the way it is.
Oh yeah, big time. I don't know. I'm so tired of talking about Xbox's never-ending spiral into despair.
Yeah, it's just mistake after mistake after mistake.
Okay, so we're gonna move on from that because we're just beating a fucking dead horse.
Sure.
Explain this Genie AI thing to me. I saw it once, but I've not really gotten to read up on it. I know the extent of what I know is basically it's a tool for game development, and you put in prompts, and the AI makes whatever based on what prompt that you put in.
Yes.
Okay. How much more is there to it?
I mean, it's kind of hard to describe.
I thought this stuff existed before.
Because it's kind of a nothing thing. Because underneath all the different stuff we talked about with AI, there have been efforts to make like just a game playable, like as you go, the AI generates the game, right? And it's always been a bit of a mess because we talked about all the shortcomings of AI, but one of the biggest things as you try to like integrate it into a workflow by just going, Valve fully turned where it's doing everything in the workflow for you, right? Is that it has no permanence. Like it doesn't remember things that it did unless you're constantly telling it to remember. So basically why I go through the effort of explaining that is there are two things to note with this kind of technology is that there have been efforts before made where like I think someone's like, oh look, I made Minecraft, and the AI is just generating it, and like you turn around and blocks you removed are back and the room looks entirely different. And it's basically just that cranked to 11, where it's like you're playing these games, there's like a minute delay with your inputs as it tries to generate everything around you, and it basically only churns out really popular examples. Like if you tell it to do Pokemon, it's going to know how to do Pokemon. If you tell it to do Zelda, it'll do Breath of the Wild Zelda because that's very popular. Grand Theft Auto is a big one. Dark Souls is a big one, where it's not doing anything unique. It's just regurgitating whatever was made on YouTube, very popular. But like there's wild examples, and I just gotta say how people are talking about it, it's beautiful in a disgusting kind of way, because when I think of scamming and scammers, I think of greasy swindlers and overseas call centers and dark alley hustlers. But like the way that these AI bros talk about this is amazing. Like he got the game to basically generate him a Dark Souls, right? And it looks like the Dark Souls guy or the Demon Souls guy. I can barely tell the two apart. And like he's on a bridge, and either because he doesn't know how to play a game or because the input is really just that bad, he jumps off and he's just falling and falling until the game finally realizes, oh wait, there's supposed to be a death plane here, and then it spawns him somewhere else entirely. He's like, amazing, I fall and it leads me to a brand new level. And it's just like, no,
shut the fuck up.
The AI forgot what you were doing and where you were, and it didn't know where to place you, so it generated something entirely new and random. So it's beautiful to see this marketing just back where they sell a bug as like the feature itself. But basically it's just another energy cost sink with tons of legal issues, because apparently Rockstar got involved. They've been copyright striking this stuff because because GTA is obviously hugely popular. People are just generating things that vaguely look like GTA, just skinned differently, and it's a fucking nightmare. But it's all bullshit. It's just more bullshit. It's another AI sink where like AI bros are trying to squeeze more money out of this and trick more people into thinking it, because like these people, all they've revealed this week is that they've never played a game before, or they just don't care, because it's just like they really just think that it's like things happen on a screen and it entertains gamers when there's more going into it, But
further forwards my standpoint from last week.
yeah, this Genie stuff is really just another example. I mean, part of me is just like, oh yeah, go ahead and try it, but like, don't try and sell it to me. Like, if you want to experiment, go ahead, but don't try to sell it and make it like profitable and take up all this shit, because it's really
they will. Don't worry.
It's just another one of the, like, I'm not saying they're doing it successfully. I'm just saying it's another one of those, we're going to just turn the faucet all the way on to AI and have it generate just this slop. It's just it's more crap, and it's another one of those situations where, like, because it's made by morons for morons, a bunch of investors like panicked, and like apparently multiple gaming stocks took like a dip almost immediately, because like you have like the people at the top who don't play the games seeing this, not realizing what the fuck it is, and panic selling. So it was turbulent, to say the least. But it's ultimately, it's one of those things where, again, unless there's a breakthrough as we're talking about it, it's another dead end in this technology, because it doesn't do anything. It needs more work, would need to go into that than it would be in just having a fucking studio make a game for you.
Good. Fuck this AI shit. Can't stand it. Terrible. Just the worst. All right. Well, now that my eyes are open to that, I don't really have much else. It's been a pretty slow week for me. There was a story about the U.S. shutting down 3 different piracy sites that were based in Bulgaria, but it's not really gaming related. I just found it interesting because it kind of is gaming adjacent, sort of. If buying isn't owning, then pirating isn't stealing, type of thing.
Like, you know how I always say to you, like, and this will be relevant, I promise, I'm not just bringing it up. You know how I always say to you, like, one of the main reasons I look at censorship is because the end goal of these people is to have things like Grand Theft Auto banned.
Yeah.
The thing about piracy sites is that, like, there are a dime a dozen, there's a shit ton of piracy sites, and there are always going to be new ones, and they're always going to be cropping up. But if they break through that barrier, the next target is like shit like abandonware sites and forcing digital, like, it's one of those things where, like, you should always pay attention, you should care about it enough to, like, be on the side against the corporations. Obviously never side with the corporations on this shit, because they will abuse you the second they break through the layer that they struggle to, because it's like it takes them forever to make a move against these guys, and then when they do, just multiple ones crop up, because they ultimately can't. They want to desperately to regulate all this stuff, but they ultimately can't. So it's just it's worth
the shit out of them.
Oh, it absolutely does. In unrelated but semi-related news, apparently a major like audio pirate site recently did like a backroom deal with AI to like sell their catalogs to AI, and it triggered, like, because those music corporations are fucking, like, they're cutthroat, they're bloodthirsty. And the second they saw this, they were suing this group for $125,000 per file.
Whoa.
Yeah, like, it was insane. And I say that's insane, and I mentioned that the music industry is fucking insane when it comes to, like, the corporate and the rights and all that shit, but realistically, all of the guys at the top in all of these industries would absolutely love to have the grounds to do something like that against any piracy. But it's pretty wild. But no, I don't have much to say on it outside of that. If that's all you got, I got a small thing, and then that's about all we can fit into today.
Okay, let's hear it.
So I saw an announcement that Final Fantasy VII was getting a new version on the PC, like of the original version. Okay. And it just looks like it's one of those situations where Square is essentially bringing it in line with their latest versions, because shockingly, and this blew my mind the first time I heard about it, Final Fantasy VII had a very early PC port. Like, it was one of those games I had on that flash drive at that class I took, and I'm surprising. It's a mess of a port. It has a lot of bugs, glitches. The audio is like this MIDI garbage. It's not like the actual music that was on the disc. And just over the years, all these different games have gotten different releases on different platforms. There's multiple different PC versions. I think the version it's replacing required a Square Enix account to log into, so that might be another part of it. So it's the PC version was behind a version, so now it's like on the same level as like the version you can get on the Xbox or the PlayStation 5, like the latest version, not like the classic edition or whatever. And in response to this, I see a lot of lot of preemptive panicking, which is always fair because these corporations love to just dick around with previously released pieces. I haven't heard anything nasty about it yet, as far as like underhandedness, like censorship and whatnot. So I'm not panicking on that front just yet. I'm willing to wait it out. Not like I'm in the market for it. But I see people in response being like, "Oh, how could they do this? How dare they?" And on a surface level, you know, as for as long as possible, we should keep and support different versions of games up for purchase, right? I'm for that, but there's just a problem. A lot of these people are also following up with, "You should buy it while you can, or you should go buy the entire series on GOG so you'll own these games forever." Again, I don't have a problem with that. Buy what you would, but I would just like to take this opportunity to highlight that Final Fantasy, at least the 3D era, all the games that are in 3D. They just really fucking suck outside of the original versions. Like all of the versions that have released suck in some way, shape, or form, because like they're either ports of really crappy mobile versions or they're edited in some way. I saw some guy post his cards like, "Look, I'm buying Final Fantasy 4, I'm buying Final Fantasy 3, I'm buying 9, and I'm buying 8. I'm buying it all in GOG. Just gonna leave this here, guys. You should come and join me," right? And I look at that and I go, Final Fantasy 4 is a poor performing port of the 3D version that came out on the DS way back when. The battles are hard locked to 15 frames per second because the game breaks if you try to raise it beyond that. They barely touched up the models. It's basically emulating the fucking thing. Like, that's how little care they put into it. Final Fantasy 3 has very similar problems with the frame rate slightly higher. Final Fantasy 8 is a remaster where they touched up all the models and like just randomly upscaled the background and censored the thing, so it's a bad version of Final Fantasy 8. Final Fantasy 9, you know how much I love that fucking game, right? I am so pissed with how that was handled, because they made the mobile version first, and then they just ported the mobile version onto PC. So it has like this aggressive HUD that takes up half the screen and is meant for touch screens, but you're doing it with a cursor. Like, imagine if you took like an app on your phone with all like the different buttons and functions, right? And you made like a PC version of that program, but like the buttons were still the same and taking up the same like real estate on the screen. That's basically what they did with it. Also, they lost all the files for the original, like all the art style stuff, all the art files for like the background and whatnot. So it's cheaply upscaled, it's blurry, it's messy. Some of this wonderful art is just completely tarnished, but they remade the 3D models. So now the 3D models look a higher scale than the older models, and then twice as much as the backgrounds, which are just muddy, disgusting versions of the existing hardware. And it's just a travesty. So basically, yeah, I mean, Square could be fucking with Final Fantasy VII again, but I just really wanted to take this opportunity to remind everybody that most of the ports available on PC and other platforms fucking suck anyway. So we're not missing that much.
Okay, by my count, you're up to 3 rants today. Fucking cool.
Okay. Hey, that was a PSA, all right? The other two don't rant. One was I don't even know what the first rant you're considering is.
If it's about to go on the fourth.
Count. No, okay, whatever. We're done. We're done.
Oh,
fine.
So funny. Love it. Oh my God. All right. Well, that was it for this one, everybody. Episode 91 of the Pregame Network podcast. If you're still listening, then thank you very much. If not, then you should listen to the whole thing.
Oh,
and we'll be back next week for more Anthony rants.
Oh my God.
This is your therapy. I know it. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.